All right, let's jump right in. When you think of Greenland, what comes to mind? Probably ice, right? A huge, empty, frozen island. Well, I want you to throw that image out the window. Because right now, as we speak, Greenland is turning into the hot new center of a global power struggle. We're talking about a high-stakes prize that could literally shape the future of our technology, our trade routes, and who holds military power in this century. So, can you actually buy a country? I mean, it sounds like something out of a movie, right? But believe it or not, this question has been asked, and seriously, in the highest levels of government. The United States has actually put it out there that they're interested in buying Greenland. And yeah, that move sent some major shockwaves around the world and basically yanked this remote island right into the center of a global chess match. And look, we're not just talking pocket change here. This isn't some symbolic gesture. Experts have actually run the numbers, and the potential price tag to buy the whole island could be as high as $700 billion. Let that sink in. It's an absolutely staggering amount of money, and it really just screams one thing. There's something incredibly valuable hiding under all that ice. You know, this whole idea isn't new, not at all. It's not like the US just woke up one day and decided they wanted Greenland. Their interest goes way, way back. They first tried back in the 1860s, right after they bought Alaska. Then they tried again in 1946 with an offer of $100 million. And both times, Denmark said, no thanks. So that leads us to the big question, right? Why? Why this obsession that spans over a century? What is it about this place that makes it so darn valuable? Well, to get to the first part of that answer, we have to look deep, deep under that massive ice sheet. Because Greenland isn't just a big block of frozen water. Think of it more like a hidden treasure map. And the treasure is some of the most critical stuff on Earth. The treasure I'm talking about, it's called rare earth elements. Now, that's a group of 17 metals that are basically the secret sauce in, well, almost everything. All of our modern tech. And the name is a bit misleading. They're not that rare in the Earth's crust. The trick is finding enough of them in one place to actually make mining worthwhile. And that's the key. They are absolutely 100% essential for our modern lives and, just as importantly, for national security. Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting from a geopolitical standpoint. For years, one country has had a stranglehold on rare earths, China. They dominate the mining, the processing, the whole supply chain. That gives them a huge amount of power over everyone else. But, and this is a big but, take a look at that second slice of the pie. That's Greenland. It's believed to have the second largest reserves on the entire planet. That means Greenland has the potential to be a total game changer, to redraw the whole map and break the world's dependency on China for these critical materials. And don't think this is some abstract economic concept. This stuff matters to you, right now. The smartphone or computer you're using to watch this, packed with rare earths. All those wind turbines and green energy tech we need for the future, can't build them without them. And then there's the really critical stuff. Fighter jets, missile guidance systems, high-tech radar. You know, the absolute foundation of a modern military. All of it completely dependent on having these elements. But the story doesn't end with what's under the ground. Not even close. Greenland's value is also about one simple thing. Location, location, location. I mean, just look at where it is. Military folks have a name for a place like this. They call it an unsinkable aircraft carrier. And again, this has been true for a long, long time. Back in World War II, the US basically made a deal to defend Greenland from Germany, partly to get their hands on a mineral called cryolite, which they needed for warplanes. Then, during the Cold War, the famous Thule Air Base was America's front line. It was the early warning system for any Soviet missiles coming over the pole. Fast forward to today, that same base has a new name, Pitofik Space Base, and its job is more important than ever, keeping an eye on both Russian and Chinese moves in the Arctic and even in space. Someone once called it the future Singapore, and that's actually a brilliant way to think about its future. Here's why. As the planet warms, the Arctic ice is melting. That's opening up brand new shipping lanes, shortcuts between Asia, Europe, and North America. And guess what sits right at the gateway to these new super highways of trade? Yep, Greenland. If you control Greenland, you essentially control a major choke point for future world commerce. It could literally become the Singapore of the North. So what does this all boil down to? For the United States and its allies, having Greenland on their side is absolutely crucial. It acts as a massive strategic bloc. It helps them counter Russia, which is building up its military presence in the Arctic again. And it's a vital checkpoint to monitor China's big Polar Silk Road plan, which is their way of extending influence into this whole new frontier. Okay, so we've talked about all these big countries, the US, China, Russia, circling Greenland like sharks. But the most important and intense struggle is actually happening inside Greenland. The Greenlandic people themselves are facing a huge dilemma. They're stuck at a crossroads, caught between a powerful desire for independence and a really, really uncertain future. And get this, the population of Greenland is just 57,000 people. I mean, think about that. That's it. You could fit the entire country into a large football stadium. And this small group of people, they hold the keys to this massive, strategically vital, resource-loaded island. The weight of the world is kind of on their shoulders. And this really gets to the heart of their problem. On one hand, you have the wish. It's this deep, powerful dream of becoming a fully independent nation, a dream they've had for centuries. They even have a legal path to get there. But then you look at the reality. And the reality is they are completely dependent economically. Their entire economy basically hinges on one thing, fishing. It makes up almost 90% of everything they sell to the world. This chart really spells it out, doesn't it? That first bar represents the money they get from Denmark every single year. It's a subsidy that makes up about a quarter of their entire economy. So if they want that dream of independence to be real, they have to figure out how to replace that money. And well, that brings us right back to all those rare earth minerals under the ice and the foreign countries eager to help them dig it up. So with all these pressures from the outside and from within, where does Greenland go from here? What's its future? Well, most experts agree that it really boils down to three very different possibilities. And here they are, the three main paths they could take. Option 1, become part of the United States. Annexation. Option 2, go for full independence, but probably have to rely heavily on money from China to make it work. And option 3, a more complicated middle ground idea called free association. So let's quickly look at what each of these means. If they go with the US, they'd likely get a ton of money and security, but they'd have to give up that dream of independence, and right now, a huge majority, like 85% of the people there are against that. Okay, what about the China route? Well, China has the cash to build the mines and the ports they need. The big risk there is falling into what people call a debt trap, and it would put them right in the middle of a conflict between the US and China. Not a great place to be. Then there's that third option, free association. This is kind of the have your cake and eat it too option. They'd become their own country, but they'd let a partner like the US or Denmark handle their military defense. It's a tricky balance for sure, and there are absolutely no easy answers here. Which really brings us to the final big question. Because this whole story, it's about more than just Greenland. It's really a test case for the world we live in now. We're back in an era of great power competition, with giants like the US, China, and Russia all scrambling for an edge. In a world like that, can a tiny nation of just 57,000 people really steer its own ship? Can they forge their own path without being crushed by the giants? The choice they make is going to have ripples that spread far, far beyond the Arctic.